Chosen one. What if I told you everything they took is coming back multiplied? This message, it didn't find you by accident. No, this is divine timing at its finest. You've been guided here because heaven knows. It's your season. The season where silence turns into celebration, where loss transforms into overflow. You've felt it, haven't you? That quiet whisper in your soul, telling you something's shifting, that after all the battles, after all the heartbreak, there has to be more. And I'm here to tell you there is. But listen closely. This isn't just about getting back what was stolen. No, this is about receiving far more than you ever imagined. Every tear you cried in secret. Every opportunity that slipped away. Every betrayal that left you questioning your worth. Heaven kept the receipts. Not one moment was wasted. Not one injustice was overlooked. You see, when you're chosen, life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you, even when it feels like everything's falling apart. Let me ask you something. What if your greatest losses were actually divine investments waiting to mature in the perfect season? Because that's exactly what's happening right now. The very things that were taken from you, your peace, your joy, your time, your love, your purpose. They're not just being returned, they're being multiplied. But here's the truth most won't tell you. God doesn't rush greatness while they thought you were being broken. You were actually being built. While they whispered about your setbacks, heaven was preparing your comeback. And now the shift has begun. This is more than restoration. This is divine recompense. The kind that doesn't just pay you back, it pays you forward. So before we dive into this revelation, do something bold, because this moment marks the turning point. Like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, because messages like this, they're not just content, they're confirmation. And if you feel that stirring in your spirit, that knowing that this word is for you, drop 77 in the comments. Not just as a number, but as a declaration, I'm aligned with heaven's multiplication. Now hear me, chosen one. Only those who are truly called will stay until the end, because this isn't entertainment, it's activation. By the time we finish, you'll understand why the pain was necessary, why the delays were divine, and why what's coming next will leave even your enemies in awe. So take a deep breath, because everything that was stolen is on its way back to you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Let's begin. Section 1. The Silent Thefts, when light attracts shadows. Chosen one. Not every battle you fought was loud. Some of the greatest losses in your life didn't come with warning signs. No alarms, no witnesses, no chance to defend yourself. They came quietly, in whispers, in shadows, in places where your heart was open and your guard was down. You see, theft doesn't always break down the door. Sometimes, it smiles in your face. It speaks softly, pretends to care. Some of the deepest wounds you carry came from hands you once trusted, from voices that once told you, I'm here for you. But behind those smiles, behind those promises, they weren't nurturing your light. They were draining it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why the people you loved the most were often the ones who took the most from you? It's not because you were naive. It's not because you were weak. It's because your heart was pure. And pure hearts attract both the broken and the bitter. You gave freely, your time, your love, your energy, because that's who you are. You weren't foolish. You were faithful. But here's the painful truth. Not everyone understands that kind of light. Some people don't know how to receive it. So instead, they try to control it, to dim it, to take from it, until there's nothing left but shadows. And the worst part, it didn't always look like theft. It looked like friendships. It looked like family. It looked like love. It looked like opportunity. But beneath the surface, they were siphoning your peace, your confidence, your dreams. You didn't lose because you were careless. You lost because you were caring. Let that sink in. There's a special kind of pain that comes when your innocence is stolen before you even knew how to protect it. When your joy is suffocated by environments too toxic to breathe in. When your dreams are crushed not by failure, but by the words of people who told you, "Who do you think you are?" Chosen one. Some of what was stolen from you wasn't even physical. It was deeper. It was your identity, your sense of worth, your voice. And then, there were the systems, the doors that stayed shut, not because you lacked the talent, but because you didn't fit their mold. You were overlooked, passed by, dismissed. Every time that happened, a little piece of your spirit chipped away, and yet, you kept going. But let's talk about something even more silent, more dangerous. The inner sabotage, that quiet voice inside that told you, maybe they're right, maybe I'm too much, maybe I should shrink just to survive. That programming, that conditioned you to play small, to doubt your worth because the world refused to affirm it. But hear me clearly now. Every betrayal, every silent theft, every stolen moment, heaven recorded it all. Not a single tear went unnoticed. Not a single injustice was ignored. While they thought they got away with draining your light, God was collecting interest on your pain. They didn't just steal from you. They made a divine transaction without realizing it. Because in the kingdom, what's taken in secret is returned in public, multiplied. Chosen one. This is your season of divine payback. The things they thought they stole quietly are about to make the loudest return. And here's what's beautiful. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove anything. God's restoration speaks louder than any explanation ever could. But let me ask you something bold. Are you ready to receive what was stolen in a form so abundant it silences every doubt you ever had? Because that's what's coming. And this isn't just about getting your peace back or your opportunities. This is about stepping into a version of yourself that they never saw coming. The version that's wiser because of the betrayal, that's stronger because of the loss, that's clearer because of the shadows. They tried to dim your light, but all they did was make you shine brighter when God flipped the switch. So don't mourn what was stolen any longer. Celebrate what's about to be restored. And understand this, the quiet losses are over. Now comes the loudest restoration you've ever witnessed. Get ready, because the places where your name was once dishonored are about to echo with the sound of vindication. Let them watch. Let them wonder. You don't owe them a word. Your life will speak for itself. Now, let's move deeper, because understanding the theft is just the beginning. Next, we uncover why the delays weren't what you thought they were. Stay with me. Chosen one, your revelation is unfolding. Section 2. Delay or Divine Design. The truth about waiting. Chosen one, how many times have you asked yourself, why is it taking so long? Why does it feel like everyone else is moving forward while you're stuck, waiting? You weren't just patient, you were desperate. You weren't just hoping, you were holding on by a single thread. Nights where you prayed until your voice broke. Days where you smiled through the weight of unanswered questions. And still, silence. Doors stayed closed. Opportunities slipped by. It felt like heaven had forgotten your name. Let me pause right here and ask you something that might shift everything. What if the silence wasn't rejection but protection? You see, we've been taught to believe that delay means denial, that if it hasn't happened yet, It must not be meant for us. But that's not how divine timing works. When you're chosen, you don't operate on human schedules. You move according to heavenly design. And sometimes, God says, wait, not because you're unworthy, but because what's coming is too big to be rushed. Think about it. The strongest structures in this world, the ones that withstand storms, earthquakes, and time, aren't built overnight. They take longer because they're designed to last. And chosen one, what God is building in you, isn't temporary success. It's not a fleeting moment of favor. It's a legacy, a foundation that no man, no system, no enemy can shake. But here's where it gets hard. Watching others rise while you remain hidden. Seeing people with less integrity get promoted. Witnessing doors open for those who didn't pray, didn't sacrifice, didn't endure what you did. And you wonder, God, did you forget me? Why them and not me? But hear this sacred truth. Delay is never God's neglect. It's His protection and His preparation. Some of those doors you begged to walk through would have collapsed under the weight of your calling. Some of those people you wanted to build with had foundations too cracked to sustain you. That opportunity you cried over when it passed you by. It was beneath your destiny. God wasn't punishing you. He was preserving you, keeping you from places that couldn't hold your anointing, keeping you from relationships that would have drained your purpose, keeping you from platforms that weren't built to carry the magnitude of your gift. Let me ask you another question. If you had received what you prayed for back then, would you have been ready to handle it? Be honest with yourself. Sometimes God delays not because you're lacking, but because what's coming demands a matured, healed, fortified version of you. You weren't being overlooked. You were being refined. Because chosen vessels aren't made in public, they're shaped in private. Every no you heard was heaven's way of saying, that's too small for what I've planned. Every closed door wasn't a rejection. It was a redirection. And here's something they won't tell you. When God is silent, it's often because He's working on something so extraordinary it has to be shielded from premature exposure. What felt like isolation was divine incubation. You weren't stuck. You were being positioned for something that eyes haven't seen and ears haven't heard. But now the setup is complete. Chosen one. What was delayed is about to arrive, but it won't come back in the form you expected. No, it's coming back multiplied. Upgraded, overflowing in ways you couldn't have imagined when you first asked for it. That job you thought you missed. Now you're being called to lead, not just work. That relationship that broke apart. Now God is aligning you with people who love you in purpose, not just in convenience. The resources that once felt scarce, now they flow to you, because you've been proven faithful in the fire. Let me remind you, God doesn't just restore what you lost. He resurrects it better, stronger, divine. So if you're still in that waiting room, lift your head. The delay was never a detour. It was design. Every second of silence was heaven whispering, hold on, I'm building something eternal. And when it manifests, you won't need to force it. You won't need to chase it. It will flow because it was always yours. You'll step into rooms where you belong, not as a visitor, but as the key holder, chosen one. Don't despise the wait, because what's ahead of you is so glorious, so divinely aligned that you'll look back and say, now I understand why it took so long. When it happens, there will be no doubt, no striving, no explaining. It will fit, it will flow, and your spirit will know. This is what heaven was preparing me for all along. So, here's your final question in this chapter. Are you willing to trust the timing of a God who sees what you can't? Because if you are, then get ready. The waiting season is ending. The appointed time has come. And what's about to enter your life will make every tear, every prayer, every moment of doubt worth it. Now, let's move forward, because knowing why you waited is only part of the revelation. Next, we uncover how those hidden seasons weren't holding you back. They were forging you into something unstoppable. Stay close. Chosen one, your story is just beginning. Section 3. Forged in Silence. The power you didn't know you were building. Chosen one. Let's talk about the season no one saw. The season where you weren't celebrated. You were hidden, where every step felt heavy, where you woke up each day wondering, what's the point of all this pain? See, people around you thought you were just struggling, but heaven knew you were being shaped. You weren't breaking down. You were being built up in silence, in secret, in sacred spaces no one else could enter. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever felt like you were fighting battles that didn't make sense until much later? That's because, chosen one, you weren't just going through hardship, you were being forged in it. Every betrayal. That wasn't just heartbreak, it was spiritual sharpening. Every time someone walked away, it wasn't abandonment, it was divine repositioning. And every tear you cried alone, it wasn't wasted sorrow, it was a seed of wisdom, a seed of resilience, a seed of future victory. They thought you were just surviving, but you were being trained for realms most people will never touch. Because here's the truth, no one wants to face. The greatest strength isn't built in the spotlight, it's built in the shadows. While they were chasing applause, you were learning how to stand when no one was clapping. While they sought validation, you were learning how to hear God's whisper in a world full of noise. You learned how to move in the dark, how to rise without recognition, how to keep believing when everything around you screamed, "Give up." Let me tell you something profound. Every heartbreak you endured, it expanded your emotional capacity. It taught you how to feel deeply without being destroyed. Every closed door, it disciplined your focus. It forced you to look inward, to align with purpose instead of chasing approval. And those seasons of silence, they purified your motives. They stripped away the need for external affirmation and anchored you in divine identity. Chosen one. The people who left you behind, they weren't your loss. They were your lesson. God removed what your future couldn't carry. Their absence wasn't punishment. It was your awakening. In your lowest moments, while others saw failure, heaven saw formation. You learned to war in the spirit, to worship while weeping, to hold on to faith when there was no applause, no recognition, no comfort. And that's where true power is born. Do you realize now that the silence wasn't empty? It was sacred. You weren't forgotten. You were hidden, covered by heaven, while God was perfecting what the world wasn't ready to see. Because had you been revealed too soon, they would have mishandled your light. They would have misunderstood your calling. They would have tried to fit you into boxes far too small for your destiny. So God kept you in the refiner's fire, not to burn you, but to purify you, to strip away everything that wasn't aligned with His purpose for you. And now, look at you. You carry a depth that can't be faked, a wisdom that wasn't handed to you. It was earned in the trenches of life, a strength forged in nights of silent tears, and days where quitting felt easier than pressing on. But you didn't quit. You were emptied, so God could fill you with divine instruction. You were tested, so you could walk in authority. You were stretched, so your capacity could hold the blessings that are now on their way. Chosen one. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. Positioned to break generational cycles. Positioned to walk into rooms and shift atmospheres. positioned to carry wisdom that can't be taught, only lived. And now, you walk differently. You speak with a quiet power. You discern with clarity, because your vision has been purified through pain. Let me ask you one more thing. Can you see now? That what almost broke you actually built the version of you that's unstoppable. Because that's who you've become, a vessel of divine wisdom, a force of light forged in silence, a reflection of what heaven builds when no one else is watching. The world didn't see it, but now they will, because your season of hiding has ended, and your season of revealing has begun. Everything you thought was wasted, the time, the tears, the trials, have become the unshakable foundation of your legacy. You were never buried, chosen one. You were planted, and now it's time to bloom unapologetically, powerfully, publicly. So don't shrink. Don't dim your light to make others comfortable. You survived the fire. Now it's time to shine because of it. And as we move forward, understand this. The preparation is complete. Now comes the return. In the next chapter, we'll explore how everything that was once yours is being placed back into your hands. But upgraded. Stay with me. Chosen one, your restoration story is just getting started. Section 4. The Return. God's version is always bigger. Chosen one. There's a moment in every divine journey. When the tide turns, you've spent years watching things slip away. People you loved, opportunities you prayed for, peace you fought to hold on to. It felt like life kept taking and taking until you wondered if lack was just part of your story. But hear me clearly now. What was taken from you was never the end of your story. It was the setup for your greatest return. Because when God restores, He doesn't give you back what was lost in its broken form. No, He multiplies it. He upgrades it. He breathes new life into what was once dead. Let's be honest. There were moments you questioned if you'd ever feel whole again. After the heartbreak. After the betrayals. After doors closed without explanation. You wondered, is this just my fate? Am I destined to always come up short? But what you didn't see was that beneath the surface, God was orchestrating a reversal so profound it would silence every doubt you ever had. Let me ask you this. What if the things that left your life were never meant to stay because something greater was being prepared? That relationship that shattered your heart. It wasn't your final love story. It was clearing space for a connection that honors your soul, one that speaks life into your purpose, one that stands beside you, not in front of you. That job that passed you over, that door that slammed shut. It wasn't rejection. It was redirection to something you were meant to own, not just participate in. Chosen one. This is the season where you stop chasing what was never meant to carry your destiny. This is where you step into ownership of your time, your energy, your gifts, and your divine calling. And let's talk about something deeper. The peace that was stolen while you were just trying to survive, while you fought invisible battles no one else could see. That peace is returning. But it's not coming back as a fragile whisper. It's coming back like a river. Steady, unstoppable, overflowing. You'll find yourself grounded in ways you've never known, centered. Clear, anchored in a stability that can't be shaken by circumstances or opinions. And what about the years you thought were wasted? The seasons you spent in wrong relationships, in places that drained you, held back by fear, confusion, or delay. God didn't forget those either. Remember Joel 2:25. I will restore to you the years the locusts have eaten. Not days, not moments, but years, chosen one. You're not just getting fragments of your life back. You're receiving the fullness of what was lost, refined, and multiplied. You see, when God brings restoration, it doesn't look like what you lost. It looks like what you were always destined for, but better than you dared to imagine. That's why some things couldn't stay. That's why certain people had to walk away. That's why those doors had to close. Because if they hadn't, you'd still be settling for less, when heaven was preparing you for more. Let me speak this into your spirit. You're not coming back empty-handed. You're coming back with treasure. But this treasure isn't just material. It's deeper. It's the kind of wealth that can't be stolen again. You're returning with wiser discernment, deeper joy, stronger boundaries, sharper vision, and a peace that surpasses all understanding. Everything that's returning to you now is coming back elevated. Your healing will run deeper than the wounds. Your joy will outlast the memories of pain. Your connections will be purer, rooted in truth, not convenience. And here's something powerful to remember. This isn't just restoration, it's resurrection. God is breathing life into areas you thought were gone forever, dreams you buried because you were too tired to believe again. They're being revived. Opportunities you thought had passed you by, they're circling back. But this time, you'll step into them fully prepared, fully empowered. Because now, you know who you are, you know what you carry, and you won't let anyone, or anything, diminish that again. Chosen one. Your story isn't about what you lost. It's about how God is returning it better, on His terms, in His timing, for His glory. So I'll leave you with this question. Are you ready to receive blessings so tailored to your purpose that you'll finally understand why everything had to happen the way it did? Because that's where you stand right now, on the edge of a season where everything that was taken returns in a form that will make you forget the years of sorrow. Not because they didn't matter, but because what's coming will far outweigh the pain. This is your divine return, not just to what was, but to what was always meant for you. Now, let's move forward, because understanding the return is one thing, but knowing the laws that guarantee your compensation, that's next-level revelation. Stay with me, chosen one. In the next chapter, we uncover why heaven doesn't just restore, it repays with interest. And trust me, you're going to want to hear this. Section 5. Kingdom Law. Why you're owed more than you lost. Chosen one. There's something you need to understand. Heaven doesn't operate like the world. Down here, when something is stolen, you're told to move on, to accept the loss, to let it go. But in the kingdom, that's not how justice works. You see, there's a law, a divine, unshakable principle written into the fabric of spiritual reality. And this law says, when the enemy steals from a child of God, he doesn't just give it back, he must repay it sevenfold. But if he is caught, he must pay back 7 times what he stole. Proverbs 6-31. Let that settle in your spirit for a moment. You didn't just endure loss. You set in motion a divine requirement for repayment. Every tear, every betrayal, every opportunity that was snatched from your hands, heaven recorded it. While you were wondering if anyone saw your suffering, God was keeping perfect accounts. And now the thief has been caught. Those spiritual attacks, the manipulation, the deceit, the years wasted in confusion, the emotional pain caused by people who pretended to love you but only came to drain you. It's all been exposed. And when exposure happens in the spiritual realm, repayment isn't optional, it's law. Let me ask you something. Have you been expecting God to just bring you back to where you were? Or are you ready for Him to take you far beyond what you lost? Because this isn't about restoration to the past. This is about elevation into your future. When God repays, He doesn't simply replace, He multiplies. You're not bouncing back to your old level. You're being launched forward into places you never imagined. Think of it this way. The enemy thought he was destroying you. But all he did was trigger a kingdom transaction, where every ounce of pain became spiritual currency. And now heaven is cashing it out with interest. This is why you're about to see blessings flow in every area of your life. Your finances, your relationships, your peace of mind, your creativity, your purpose, even your legacy. Because God isn't just making things even. He's demonstrating what happens when a chosen one stays faithful, even when everything tries to break them. Let me be clear. This isn't karma. This isn't what goes around comes around. This is higher. This is kingdom justice. Karma is random, but divine compensation is intentional. It's not luck. It's law. You see, when you kept your heart clean, when you refused to become bitter, when you chose prayer over revenge, you aligned yourself with a spiritual principle that cannot fail. Heaven defends its own, and you, chosen one, are about to witness what that defense looks like. Let me ask you another question. Can you handle being blessed in ways that make no sense to those who watched you suffer? Because that's what's coming. You'll walk into rooms where your name was once dismissed and be celebrated. You'll receive opportunities that bypass human systems because they're stamped with divine approval. You'll see resources find you effortlessly, not because of hustle, but because favor has been activated. And the beauty of this, you won't have to force any of it. When kingdom law is in motion, blessings chase you. But here's where I need you to stay grounded. This isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving God right. It's about becoming a living testimony of what happens when someone refuses to give up, when someone chooses faith over frustration. You're stepping into a season where peace becomes unshakable, vision becomes unstoppable, confidence becomes untouchable, because it's rooted in presence, not praise. You'll notice the alignment. The right people will appear. The right doors will open. The right opportunities will feel like they were tailor-made for your calling. Because they were. This is your payback season, but not as the world defines it. This isn't about revenge. It's about restoration with purpose. It's about blessings so abundant, they spill into the lives of everyone connected to you. Chosen one. God doesn't just want to bless you. He wants to make you a conduit of blessing. So when this overflow comes, and it will remember why it's happening, it's not just to elevate you, it's to establish His glory through you. Let me leave you with this final thought for this chapter. Are you prepared to steward the kind of abundance that speaks louder than words and points everyone who sees it straight back to God? Because that's where you're headed. The law of divine compensation is in effect. The scales are being balanced in your favor. Now, let's move deeper. Because while blessings are flowing, there's something else you need to know. Your enemies, the ones who doubted you, the ones who whispered behind your back, they're about to witness every bit of this elevation. Not because they deserve to see it, but because God is about to make your life a public declaration of His faithfulness. Stay with me. Chosen one. The next chapter will show you why you don't need to seek vindication. Because God has already prepared the stage. Section 6. Your enemies will witness it. God's public declaration. Chosen one. Some victories aren't meant to stay private. There's a reason God doesn't just restore you in silence. There's a reason your blessings, your elevation, will be seen by those who once doubted you, mocked you, and even worked against you. Because when God moves in the life of a chosen one, it becomes a public declaration of His faithfulness. Let me remind you of something powerful. You prepare a table before me, in the presence of my enemies. Psalm 23:5. That's not a metaphor. That's a promise. God doesn't elevate you to gloat. He elevates you to demonstrate, to show everyone, especially those who tried to tear you down, that His hand has been on you all along. Think back, chosen one. Remember the times they laughed at your dreams, the moments they whispered about your failures, the seasons where you were the subject of gossip, the target of jealousy, the one they counted out before the race was even finished. They thought your silence was weakness. They thought your patience was defeat. They thought your quiet endurance meant you had nothing left. But what they didn't realize was that while they were watching for your downfall, God was preparing your rise. Let me ask you something real. How will you carry yourself when God blesses you in front of those who tried to break you? Because that moment is coming, and it won't be subtle. Your enemies will have a front row seat, not because they deserve it, but because God wants them to witness what divine favor looks like. This isn't about revenge. It's about revelation. It's about showing the world that no weapon formed against you could prosper. That every lie, every betrayal, every attempt to sabotage your purpose failed. Not because you fought back in the flesh, but because you stood still and let God fight for you. Chosen one. You don't need to explain how you survived. You don't need to justify how you're rising. They won't understand it because they weren't there for the silent battles. They didn't see the nights you cried out to God, the days you pushed forward when everything in you wanted to quit. They'll see the blessing, but they'll never grasp the cost. And that's okay, because your comeback isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving that God is always right. Right to choose you, right to preserve you, right to prepare you for such a time as this. You'll walk into rooms where your name was once dismissed, not seeking validation, but carrying authority. You'll receive favor in places where doors were once slammed shut, not because you forced them open, but because God Himself unlocked them. And those who thought they won when you were down, they'll have no choice but to watch as you rise gracefully, powerfully, without bitterness, without boasting. Let me give you a truth that will set you free. Vindication doesn't come through your words. It comes through God's works. You don't have to announce your breakthrough. You don't have to clap back at those who doubted you. When God blesses you, it speaks louder than anything you could ever say. They will wonder, how did they survive that? How are they still standing? How did they go from overlooked to overflowing? And the answer will be simple. God did it. Not luck, not connections, not manipulation, but pure, undeniable divine favor. Chosen one. This is the beauty of letting God write your story. The same people who thought they witnessed your ending will witness your new beginning. But here's the key. Keep your heart pure. When the elevation comes, and it will, stay humble. Stay focused. Because your rise isn't just for you. It's a testament for everyone watching that God is still in the business of restoration, that He defends His chosen, that no plot, no betrayal, no attack can override His purpose. Let me ask you one more thing. Can you handle being blessed publicly without needing to say, "I told you so"? Because true strength isn't in revenge, it's in restraint. It's in knowing that God's justice is perfect and His timing is intentional. So when they see you walking in rooms they tried to keep you out of, when they hear your name in circles they never thought you'd enter, when they watch doors open that no man can shut, smile, not because you've won against them, but because you've overcome with grace, with faith, with purpose. Chosen one. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Let them witness the power of a life surrendered to God's plan. Because your life is no longer about survival. It's about impact. And as we move forward, there's something even greater you need to prepare for. This isn't just about restoration. It's about stepping into a season of overflow, where you're not only blessed, but you become a blessing to everyone around you. Stay with me, because in the next chapter, we'll uncover how God's abundance isn't just returning to fill your cup. It's coming to make it overflow. And trust me, you've been prepared for this. Section 7. Overflow more than enough for you and beyond. Chosen one. You didn't endure all that, just to get by. You didn't survive the storm, fight silent battles, and hold on when everything told you to let go, just to return to normal. No, you were destined for something far greater. This isn't the season where you settle for enough. This is the season of overflow. Let me speak this clearly into your spirit. You're stepping into a time where blessings won't just meet your needs, they will exceed them. But before you think this is only about material things, let me stop you right there. Overflow isn't just about money, cars, or status. It's about something far deeper, something eternal. It's about having more than enough peace. When the world is in chaos, more than enough joy. When circumstances say you shouldn't smile, more than enough wisdom to guide not only yourself, but those connected to you. See Chosen One. When God brings you into overflow, it's not just for your benefit. It's so you can become a conduit of His goodness. You've been through the fire. You've been refined. And now heaven can trust you with abundance because you know what it costs to get here. Let me ask you this. Are you ready to carry blessings that aren't just for you, but for everyone assigned to your light? Because that's what overflow is. It's purpose-driven abundance. God is about to fill your cup, not so you can hoard it, but so it spills over into every room you walk into, every conversation you have, every life you touch. Remember those nights when you prayed for just a breakthrough, when you asked God for a sign, anything to show you. He hadn't forgotten. Now, He's not just giving you a sign, He's giving you a season where doors open before you knock, the right people find you without you chasing, resources flow because you're aligned, not because you're exhausted. Opportunities appear that match your calling, not just your capability. But here's what makes this so beautiful. You're no longer striving. You're no longer begging for crumbs of peace or fragments of joy. You're walking in overflow because you endured the process. Chosen One. Heaven honors endurance. It rewards faithfulness when no one was watching. And now, because you didn't quit, because you kept believing when logic said stop, you're stepping into blessings pressed down, shaken together, and running over. But let me offer you a deeper perspective. Overflow isn't just a reward, it's a responsibility. When God pours into you this way, it's because He knows you'll pour into others. He knows you won't let pride corrupt what pain purified. He knows you'll lead with compassion, with wisdom, with a heart anchored in humility. Let me ask you something important. Can you handle being the blessing you once prayed to receive? Because now you'll be the one speaking life into broken hearts. You'll be the one shifting atmospheres just by walking into the room. You'll be the one offering guidance to those still trapped in the storms you survived. This is why the process was so intense, why the wait felt so long, why the battles were so fierce. God wasn't just preparing a blessing for you. He was preparing you for the blessing. Now you carry something far greater than material wealth. You carry spiritual authority. You carry anointing that was birthed through fire. You carry a testimony that can't be argued with because you lived it. And here's what's coming. You'll notice your influence expanding. People drawn to your presence, not for what you have, but for what you carry. Clarity like you've never known before. A peace that becomes unshakable regardless of external noise. Because overflow isn't chaos, it's divine order, it's alignment. It's heaven's way of saying, now you're ready to lead. Chosen One. You are becoming the answer to prayers, not just your own, but those around you. This overflow will touch your family, your community, even generations after you. It's legacy building. It's cycle breaking. It's God showing off through a vessel that stayed faithful when quitting would have been easier. Let me leave you with this final thought. Do you realize now that everything you lost, was simply making room for everything you're about to receive. Because when God restores, He doesn't fill empty spaces with the same things. He fills them with better, with more, with what aligns perfectly with who you've become. So get ready, not just to receive, but to pour out. You've entered your season of overflow, and nothing, no enemy, no setback, no delay can stop what heaven has already released over your life. Now, as we close this journey, there's one final revelation to embrace. This isn't just a moment, it's a new chapter, and the return you're experiencing, it's only the beginning. Stay with me for the final words, chosen one, because understanding how to walk in alignment with this overflow will ensure that what's coming doesn't just bless you, it transforms everything around you. Let's finish strong. The return has begun. Walk boldly into what's yours. Chosen one, take a deep breath. Let everything you've heard settle into your spirit. This isn't just another message. This was a confirmation, a divine reminder that everything you thought was lost was never really gone. Heaven kept the receipts, and now the return has begun. But remember, this isn't just about restoration, it's about transformation. You're not being returned to who you were. You're stepping into who you were always meant to be, refined, elevated, and aligned with a purpose greater than you imagined. All those silent battles, all the tears no one saw, all the nights you questioned if it was worth it. Now you know, it was never punishment. It was preparation. It was positioning you for a life that doesn't just survive, but overflows. Let me leave you with this truth, chosen one. You are no longer waiting for breakthrough. You're walking in it. The season of scarcity, confusion, and delay is over. Now comes clarity. Now comes peace. Now comes abundance. Not just for you, but through you. Because God doesn't bless you to sit still. He blesses you to impact, to uplift, to be a living testimony of His faithfulness. So here's my question as we close. Are you ready to carry this overflow with grace, wisdom, and purpose? Because what's been released over your life, no one can take, no system can block, no enemy can reverse. Walk boldly, chosen one. Own your story, every broken piece, every victory, every lesson, because all of it has shaped you into a vessel heaven can trust. And when people ask, how did you rise after everything you went through? You'll smile and simply say, God did it. Before you go, if this message stirred something deep within you, if you know this is your season, take a moment to like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, because this is just the beginning of the revelations coming your way. And if you're truly ready to embrace your overflow, drop $9.99 in the comments. Not just as a number, but as a declaration. I'm aligned, I'm ready, the return is mine. Chosen one, your comeback isn't coming. It's here, so lift your head, open your heart, and step boldly into the abundance that's been waiting for you. The battle was loud, but your blessing will be louder. This is your season. This is your time. And remember, it's not just restoration, it's overflow. Until next time, stay aligned, stay faithful, and watch what God does next.